you have to weigh yourself first and then say, right, this is the weight I want to get to if you want to stop smoking. Now, stopping smoking is very tricky for people when it's set goals, because how do you measure that you've stopped? Because you've already achieved the goal by not smoking anymore. So what you have to do is say, right, I'm going to be smoke-free for 30 days. Then you're going to have 60 days, or you might start with 7 days. You might even start with 1 hour. Each time you achieve that goal, you go, eventually you have 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And each time you hit that goal, you should reward yourself for achieving it. A, is it attainable? By that, it means not is it possible, because some people would say that it's not possible. It wasn't possible for me to run the marathon according to the doctors. But is it really attainable? Now, if you said, my goal is to invent a time machine that will let me go back and meet my parents, is that an attainable and realistic and possible goal? If you feel that you have a way of inventing time travel, then maybe you should go down that route. Now, you might say at the age of 32, I want to be a professional footballer, and you're not particularly a footballer now. Now, it may be that if you work really, really hard and really apply yourself, you might get 5 years down the line, if you do nothing else, some outings getting paid £50 a game, which would make you a professional footballer. But is that worth the sacrifice of your career, family and everything else you'd have to make to achieve that? But I see whether or not it's attainable, which leads us on to R, which is relevant. Because is it a relevant goal to you? Remember I said to you, goals had to mean something to you. Well, if it's relevant, it will mean something. If you say, I want to save £10,000 to buy a new car because your old car, or your current car, should I say, is no good, then that's relevant. But if you're driving around in a £40,000 Mercedes and you say, I want to save £10,000 so I can buy myself a Golf GTI 1.6 D-Reg or whatever, is it relevant? So you must make it something that means something to you. And this is where, when a boss sets you goals, you have to say to yourself, how is this goal relevant to me? And it might be an idea of saying to the boss, right, or your manager, should I say, how is this goal relevant to me? Let's talk about making it relevant to me. Because if you can buy into the goal, then you've got every chance of achieving it. If you don't, because it's someone else's goal, no chance. It's going to be really hard and not much fun. And lastly, it has to be timed. There has to be a deadline. I want to do this by this date. Because if you don't, it becomes one day. And if you go one day, you're saying, I have a dream. Now, let's just talk about two speeches made in 1961. One is much more famous than the other. Which one am I going to talk about first? Yeah, I have a dream that one day African American and white American can live together in peace. Let's just look at that. I have a dream, not a goal. I have a dream that one day. Okay, so that was 65 years ago nearly. How well is that dream working? Are they living side by side in complete peace? So this speech, on the same day as Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech, was by JFK. And this was the speech which starts off, my fellow Americans, I set you a goal, a target, that by the end of this decade, this nation will put a man on the moon. How did that work out? Now, it could be because he got assassinated. It could be because of the Russian Cold War. But whatever happened, the fact is that they worked extremely hard to get a man on the moon before the end of that decade. Now, had he not made that speech, and had he not been assassinated, and had that not been a goal set to the American people, if he'd have said, one day we'll probably get a man on the moon, do you think they'd have taken the chances they took? Do you think they'd have pushed so hard to get a man on the moon? Because the fact is, if you set a goal, it will be achieved if you time it. If you don't, it'll happen one day. And let me tell you, one day never comes.